Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Got one of them crazy stories sent to me by a whole bunch of people. Andrew, Edward, Jason, and Colin. Headline from the Associated Press: fraud at trial juror reports getting bag of $120,000 and promise of more if she'll vote to acquit. Sounds like something straight out of a gangster movie. But a juror was dismissed Monday after reporting that another woman dropped a bag of $120,000 in cash at her home and said she'd get more money if she'd vote to acquit 7 people currently charged with stealing more than $40 million from a program meant to feed children during the pandemic. The story's Dateline Minneapolis. This is completely beyond the pale, says the U.S. Assistant Attorney in court on Monday. This is outrageous behavior. This is stuff that happens in mob movies. These 7 defendants are the first of 70 expected to go to trial in a conspiracy that cost taxpayers $250 million. 18 others have pleaded guilty, and authorities said they recovered about $50 million in one of the nation's largest pandemic-related fraud cases. Prosecutors say just a fraction of the money went to feed low-income kids, while the rest was spent on luxury cars, jewelry, travel, and property. During the trial that began back in April, defense attorneys questioned the quality of the FBI's investigation and suggested this might be more of a case of record-keeping problems than fraud, as these defendants sought to keep up with rapidly changing rules with the program. These 7 initial defendants were affiliated with a restaurant that participated in a food aid program. Those still awaiting trial include the founder of one of these organizations, who has pleaded not guilty and denied any wrongdoing. Now, the juror is 23 years old and said she immediately turned over the bag of cash to police. She said a woman left it with her father-in-law Sunday with the message that there's more to come if she votes to acquit, according to a report from the Minneapolis Star-Tribune. Defense attorney told the judge the big bag of cash is a troubling and upsetting accusation. Before allowing the trial to continue with more closing arguments, the judge questioned the remaining 17 jurors and alternates, and none of them reported receiving any big bags of cash. The judge decided to sequester the jury for the rest of the proceeding as a precaution. I don't do it lightly, she said, but I want to assure a fair trial. She didn't decide immediately whether to detain the defendants, but she did order an FBI agent to confiscate the phones of the defendants. The aid money came from the U.S. Department of Agriculture and was administered by the State Department of Education. Nonprofits and other partners under the program are supposed to serve meals to kids. 2 of the groups were small nonprofits before the pandemic, but in 2021 they dispersed around $200 million each. Prosecutors allege they produced invoices for meals that were never served, created and ran shell companies, laundered money, indulged in passport fraud, and accepted kickbacks. Those are the allegations, and the trial is still ongoing. This, of course, is bizarre. So you get seated on a jury, and most people view jury duty as relatively boring, time-consuming, and just a hassle. You can't go to work, you can't do your normal stuff. You got to go to court every single day till this trial ends. Oftentimes, they're horribly wrong on their estimates of how long the trial is going to take. And I've had trials that I thought would take 3 days, turn into a week. I've heard of trials that were supposed to be 3 weeks, turn into 7, that kind of thing. And so if you're taking time off from work, you might be able to get away with a couple weeks. 7 or 8 weeks, that's tough. That's tough. So combine that with somebody shows up at your in-laws' home with a bag of cash and goes, here, if she votes to acquit, there's more where that came from. Assuming those allegations are true, it would be kind of freaky, because that means, number one, they figured out who you are and how to get to you. And you might say, but Steve, if someone wants to throw money at me, that's not that bad. Oh, you assume that that's all they want to do. Because if they know where you live, for instance, they might decide to do bad things to you if you vote the wrong way. I mean, I think that's implied there. It might not be to everybody, but I think it is. And again, the question is, do they only go to one juror? And now if I was that juror, I'd be going, why me? And now you wonder, did anybody else in the jury get a bag of money? So it's kind of weird. And why $120,000? Why not $100,000? And right now people are going, why don't I get to be on a jury like this? This sounds like a fun jury. And of course, the question is, if you got a bag of cash with $120 in it, would it be a bag of cash with $120 in it when it got to the police station? And I'm not pointing fingers at anybody because that's speculation. But that, of course, is another question altogether. But this is weird. This is weird. And I mentioned recently, I think it was in a live stream I did on Sunday. I do live streams on Sunday here. Somebody asked about cameras and courtrooms and so on. And I said, well, there's a variety of reasons for it. But I said one of the reasons is that people could come in with cameras and photograph the jury in a criminal trial. And then we know who they are. We know what they look like. If we want to, we can hound those people. Or we can try to bribe those people. And so there is always this extra layer of security around the jury. And there needs to be, unfortunately, because it's not usually somebody trying to do nice things for you, like give you a bag of cash. It's usually people trying to get to you and influence you in other ways, or possibly even just do something to you because you voted the wrong way on a case, So you'll all recall, I believe it was in The Untouchables with Kevin Costner, where Frank Nitti may have gotten to the jurors. In fact, I'm pretty certain he did, based on the plot of that movie. Of course, the movie was not horribly accurate historically, but it was a fun summer romp. But I've been practicing law for 33 years, and obviously, what I see with my own eyes is one thing. But as an attorney, I pay attention to the whole legal field as best I can. And if something crosses my desk, as I like to say, and it's in the news, it's legal, I'll scan the headlines and read the stories that interest me. And then a lot of them turn into videos I do on this channel. I've never heard of anything like this before. This is bizarre. It is bizarre. And so now the net result of this is that the money got turned over to the police. It ain't going to be that hard to figure out who might have had a motive to do this. So I suspect more investigations are coming. And then, of course, now the jury is sequestered. And the jury is sequestered, and they know why. And right now, those jurors are thinking, we got sequestered because one of those knuckleheads who's on trial decided to try to bribe one of us. And because of that, we're all now sequestered. And I wouldn't want to be among a group of defendants who just ticked off a jury so much that now they probably dislike us even more than before we started. So I have no idea how well the trial is going for either side. I don't know. But that's not a good sign for the defendants. Because if things are going really well for the defendants, why would you bother trying to bribe a juror? Next question is, would you really think they'd only try to bribe one juror? And that's another issue because it says here there's 17 jurors and alternates. And so what if you bribed an alternate? It wouldn't help you at all. And the alternates aren't chosen yet. So in case you don't know, if you're on trial, and a typical criminal trial is 12 jurors who'll decide your fate. But they can't pick just 12 because if they start the trial and one of them gets hit by a car and dies, suddenly you've got a problem, so you'd have to have a mistrial. So what they do is they choose more than 12, 14, 16, 17, whatever it might be. And then before they deliberate, they draw the 12 who will be deliberating, and the other jurors are dismissed. But they're told if anything happens to one of these people, we might need one of you back. So don't talk about the case and don't go too far until these guys have a verdict. And I've actually heard of a case before where a jury was deliberating for quite some time and one juror had a problem where they couldn't be there. And they actually said, okay, we're going to excuse this one juror. We're going to bring in an alternate and you guys have got to start all over again. Sorry. And yeah. I have sympathy for jurors. I've got even more for jurors in a case like that. But this is crazy. But Andrew, Edward, Jason, Colin, thank you for sending me from the Associated Press. Fraud trial juror reports getting bag of $120,000 in cash and promise of more if she votes to acquit. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Life is a balance of holding on and letting go.